welcome back everyone to part 13 of our Smarts Anime AI series. And in this part, I'm doing something quite new and exciting, which is I'm going to be creating a new Mage enemy from scratch. So we won't be using the mannequin from Unreal Engine. We will be using this custom mesh from Mixamo, as well as custom animations and everything to show you how to create a completely new enemy from scratch with the animation blueprint and all. Now this Mage enemy is going to have a teleport function like this. Whoop, teleport, attack. This is the same attack that the player has. And then we'll be moving around the player. I can show you in slow motion. Yeah, like that. Teleport. And if I get the health of the enemy low enough, the enemy can also heal, like this. And after they're done healing, they go back to their teleport and attack sequence. Perfect. So, let's get started. Alright, so to start with a character from scratch, the first thing we need to do is have a mesh and some animations. And I will be using Mixamo.com to get both the character and the animations. I'm using this character called Kachujin or something like that. Doesn't really look like a mage, but I think I'll make it work. And the animations that I'll need are from this guy. So this is the Mage guy of Mixamo. And I'm using a lot of animations. So there's the walking animations and the running animations in all directions. So walk forward, backwards, left and right, and run the same. And then there's an attack animation, a hit reaction, and a jump. I'm going to leave all of the names of all the animations that I'm using down in the description. And of course, you'll be able to download all of the project file and assets from my Patreon. I've already downloaded all of these, and I have them here in my content folder under characters, Mage. I have the mesh, so this is the mesh that you saw in Mixamo. And here are all of the animations that I mentioned. And of course, I'm going to show you when we're going to use each one. We're going to be creating some montages out of them as well, so we're going to go over most of them. The one thing that I did create as well out of all these animations is a blend space. So this is just the locomotion blend space. I'm not going to go over how to create a blend space. As always, there are a ton of tutorials on how to do that, and it's very basic. So it's just the direction that the character is looking and the speed that they're moving at. All right. So now that we have our character ready and our animations, the first thing we need to do is to actually create the enemy. So in our enemies folder, right click on the base, and we're going to create a new child. Let's call this BP enemy Mage, and open that up. And we're going to just dock it back here. And let's replace the mesh with our Mage mesh. So gonna go over here and yeah, the SKM Mage. Now I did notice that the model from Mixamo is quite big. So if you compare the size, you see that the Mixamo model is significantly larger than the mannequin. So I'm gonna just scale her down a bit to 0.85 on all axes. Right now she's fitting within the capsule and will be the same size as the rest of the enemies. All right. Now that we have our enemy mesh attached to this actor, we can actually put it in the world, but nothing will happen because yeah, we don't have an animation blueprint, a behavior tree. There's still a lot we have to do, of course. So first thing I want to do is actually create the animation blueprint. And this was a request from a lot of people that don't want to use the mannequin blueprint. So I'm going to show you what goes into creating a custom anim blueprint that works with our enemy AI. So let's go over to our characters, our Mage animations, and right click here. I'm going to search for animation blueprint. And it's going to ask me which skeleton. I'm going to say the SK Mage skeleton, and I'm just going to call this ABP Mage. And let's open it up. All right, so first thing we need to do is we need to have a new state machine. So I'm gonna search for state machine, and I'm gonna call this the locomotion. Whoa, I added a slash there by accident. And we also need a default slot. So search for default slot. This is what allows us to play montages. Without this, montages won't play. And then let's open up double click on our locomotion states. So here we're going to add a state. We're going to call this base locomotion. And we're gonna have only two states, a base locomotion and a jump state. So I'm gonna also add a state here and call it jump. And there's a transition from locomotion to jump and backwards. We're gonna go over these transitions in a bit, but let's first double click inside our base locomotion and add the animation. Now the animation is going to be the blend space. So this blend space that I created from the walk and run animations. Blend space requires direction and speed, and we need to go into our event graph here and get these variables or assign these variables. Now I can also just copy it. So in our ABP mani, we already did this. So I'm going to copy here in the event graph. We need the direction and we need the is falling. We're going to use this actually for the jump state. And we need the ground speed. So I'm going to copy this part. I'm going to copy this part because we use the movement component to get the ground speed. I'm going to copy the direction part, and oh, we said is falling as well. Okay, so I'm just going to copy all of these, head back to my Mage, create a sequence by pressing S on the keyboard and click, or of course right click and search for sequence. And I'm going to paste here everything that we have. All right, so let's plug in this. Let's plug in this here. And we need a third pin for the direction. All right, now you'll see some nodes are gray because we don't have a variable for them. You can just right click and say create variable. For all of these set variable nodes, create variable, direction, create variable, create variable. Now if I compile, still have a few errors. This also needs a create variable. Great, okay, now no errors, just the warnings for the transitions that we're missing, but we're gonna add these in a bit. All right, so now we have variables for the ground speed, velocity, direction, and is falling. So back to our locomotion state, we can now set the direction and the ground speed. Excellent. All right, and for the jump state, I just have one jump animation, so I'm going to search here for Mage jump. Proper locomotion, you should have a jump start, a jump loop, and a jump land or jump finish. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to have one jump animation. It's going to look a bit weird in some cases, but yeah, again, it's not an animation tutorial. All right, and I'm going to make sure that the jump is looping, by the way. And now to our transitions. So going from base locomotion to jump, the only check we need is falling. So if the character is falling, then go to the jump state and jump back to base locomotion, just the opposite of that. So is not, and search for not Boolean, is not falling. All right. And that's pretty much it for our animation blueprints. It's really basic, but this is all we need. We can play montages, we have our locomotion states, and we can jump. Perfect. Now back in our BP enemy Mage, let's assign our animation blueprint here. So instead of ABP mani, let's search for ABP Mage. And right there, she starts to move and be animated. And over here in the world, it's the same. Great. So before we start seeing this mage character move and do some things, there are a few functions and variables that we have to override. And clicking on interface here, I'm going to start with get, where is it? The set movement speed. This one. So this sets the movement speed based on this enum, if you remember. So I can pull off the enum and say select and plug the output value here so it knows it's a float. And we can say what are the speeds of this mage enemy. On idle, it's always 0. Walking, I'm going to say like 150. Jogging is about 250. And sprinting is about 400. Now, these variables are actually based on my locomotion. They're not exactly perfect, but you can keep playing around based on your animations and how you want it to look. All right. So that's the set movement speed, and the second thing is the get idle range. So if you recall, we have an attack radius and a defend radius for each enemy. And here I'm going to say for the mage I want it to attack from a far away distance, so let's say 500. And when it's not attacking, I want it to go even further, so it's harder for the player to hit. So I'm going to say 700. That's our attack and defend radius. And if you click on the actor, the root component itself, then you can start setting some of the variables. Now, the first and most important variable is our behavior tree. We haven't created the behavior tree for the mage yet, but I'm just going to use the ranged behavior tree for now. And we also need a hit reaction montage and yeah, I think that's the only things we need for now. The behavior tree and the hit reaction montage. We don't actually have the hit reaction montage yet, so let's create it. So in our animations, I have a hit reaction, this hit reaction animation. And again, the link for it or the name of the animation that I got from Mixamo is down in the description. And to create a montage, I'm just going to right click and say create anim montage, and I'm going to call it montage underscore mage hit reaction. I'm going to create a new folder, call it montages, just to have things a bit cleaner, and put it there. All right, so we have this hit reaction montage, and back here I can select it, and it's right here, montage mage hit reaction. Awesome. So now let's start to see if this mage will have any behavior to it. Nice. So you can see her moving around. Obviously, she's not going to be able to attack because she doesn't have an attack event. So right now she tried to attack and she is frozen in place. If I attack her, yeah, she does the hit reaction montage and then moves away. And she's just going to keep strafing around me and not being able to attack. All right, so now that we have somewhat of a working enemy, let's start adding mage-specific functionality to her. And I'm going to start with the attack function. I'm going to give her, I'm going to make her main attack to be the same as the player. So this like Hadouken or whatever, throwing a magic ball spell. And I have the animation for it, which is the same one the player is using. Where is it? Yeah, this one. It's called Fireball. So we want to create a montage out of this. But you'll notice that it has a very long wind-up time. So all of this time, character's not doing anything, and only about here does the character start to make the fireball. And then it shoots. So I'm going to make the montage start from somewhere around here. Well, let's see how we can do that. So on the fireball animation, right-click, create anim montage, and call this montage mage fireball. Why not? I mean, it's not really a fireball, but it's some sort of ball. And we're going to open up our montage. And to make it start at a specific point, I'm going to find the point I want. Let's say, yeah, somewhere around here, 1.03. And I can click on the animation here, this one. And on the start time, I'm going to say starts at 1.03. Great, so now my montage starts here. If we wanted to have a longer wind-up time, we can say start at 0.8, for example. Yeah, whatever we want. And somewhere about here, we want to add a notify. And right-click, add notify, montage notify, and call it fire. This is when we will actually fire the ball. Yeah, I think about here is fine. All right, so we have our montage ready. Let's create the attack event. Now, back here in our BP enemy mage, if you recall, we have attack end, attack start, and so on. The attack end and attack start, just as a reminder, are in the base enemy. So this is the, where is it? This is the attack end, where it stores the tokens again and calls attack ended. And the attack start is actually a function, attack start, which reserves a token, does all the things for the group enemy combat. So we're not going to override this. We're only going to override the attack. So how are we going to do this? Let's go to our BP enemy mage, and you can just double click on the attack or right click, search for event attack, whatever you want. I'm going to double click on it. And first thing we need to do is play the montage. So I'm going to pull off here and say play montage. Select this one, the one that takes a skeletal mesh, because this one has all of the output pins that we want. And the skeletal mesh will be, I'm going to pull off of our mesh here. The montage will be the mage fireball. And we need to pull off of the notify at the point where we get the fire. So switch, search for switch. Make sure it's not plugged here, but plugged into on notify begin. So on notify begin, we're going to switch on the name fire. This is what we created. We don't need a default pin, so I'm going to uncheck this. And on fire, we want to fire the like this magic spell that we have. And again, if you recall, in our BPC attacks, I'm going to right click here. This is our attacks actor component. We have this magic spell. This is the one that the player is using, and the nice thing about using actor components to house all of our attacks is that we can reuse the same spell that the player is using for the enemy as well. So back in our enemy, all I'm going to do is pull off of BPC attacks and say magic spell. Great, now we just have to plug in all of the variables that this needs. So for the spawn transform, I'm going to right click and split. We only need the spawn location because the rotation and scale will be based on the target, because we do have a target here. And the target, of course, is just our attack target. So I can just plug this here to our attack target and make it a bit cleaner. Now our spawn location is where the hands of our mesh is. So I need to know the name of the socket of the hand. So I'm going to click on the mesh, open up the skeletal mesh, and I think it's just called hand. Yeah, right hand. So I'm going to use right hand or left hand, doesn't matter. Let's use right hand. So to do that, we're going to get our mesh, get socket location. So this gets the world location of a socket, and the socket is called right hand. Now it's going to be a socket or a bone, and they're both the same in this case. All right, so then we have an attack function. Do we need anything else? Oh, very important. Whenever you call attack, you need to call attack end. If you recall, again, for all of our characters, when we call attack, where is attack? After the attack is over, we have to call attack end. This is very important, otherwise we'll get stuck in the attack behavior tree task. So back here in our mage, on completed, I'm going to call attack end. And attack end is a function already in the enemy base, so we don't need to do anything else. And I'm going to call it on completed and on interrupted, making sure I pass the attack target. All right. Do I need anything else? Well, let's see if this works. I'm going to play, and I did. Nice, I got attacked. Oh, but we forgot to add how much the damage info. So I'm actually not getting damaged. I forgot the damage info here. So pull off of damage info and say make. And let's say damage 20 or something like that. Damage type, projectile, doesn't matter. And I'm gonna leave, well, we don't really use these from our damage system, so they don't matter. The only thing that we use right now is amount. We actually use can be blocked or not, but the player can't block for now, so also doesn't matter. Now I should be getting damaged, and boom. Ooh, yes, I am getting damaged quite a lot. Great, and I can also damage her. You know, the hit reaction is a bit slow. You know, it's like when she gets hit, she's like, yeah, it's a bit slow. So I'm gonna speed it up a bit. Now there's a few ways we can speed it up. The simplest is just to go to the montage hit reaction, click on the animation here in the timeline, and say play rate 1.25 instead of 1. So now it's a bit faster. Yeah, that's a bit better. Let's make it even 1.4. Yeah, that's better. So now if I attack her, boom, yeah, nice. Great. Now the next thing I want to do is actually add an ability to our mage. And this ability will be a teleport ability to allow the mage character to sort of quickly move from one location to another. And before I start building that, I'm going to be using some. I want to show you what the visual effects that I'm going to be using for this teleport. And I'm going to be using the Paragon Gideon assets from the Unreal Marketplace, which is free to use. And I'm going to be using mainly two assets from that. And we're already using, by the way, the Paragon Gideon for this Fireball or this Hadouken spell. And I'm adding, let me show you the two I'll be using. So Paragon Gideon here, I've already downloaded them, or I added them to the project. So particles, Gideon, abilities, these two, Burden and Meteor. So inside Meteor, we have this Meteor Trail, and I can show you what it looks like in the world. So this Meteor Trail here, if I like reset emitter, so when it moves, it looks like this. And this is going to be our teleport effect. So once the mage character moves, this will be the trail it leaves behind when it teleports. And the other one, Burden, yeah, this one. I will hide the body of the mage when the mage teleports and replace it with this. So it looks like it's turned into this magic ball and leaves a trail behind it when it moves. So I think it's going to look pretty cool when it's all put together, and you're going to see that in a bit. All right, so now that I've showed you the two assets that we're going to use, let me explain how I'm going to create the teleport functionality itself. So over here in our enemy, I'm going to create a new custom event and call it teleport. Yeah, just call it teleport. Now, a lot of people will do a teleport just by changing the actor location. So I can, this teleport will take a location parameter, location, which will be a vector. And a lot of people will just say set actor location to be the new location. Now, this is the simplest way to do a teleport, but the problem is this actually takes the actor from one place and puts them immediately to another place. I actually want the teleport to move the character, so you see the trail behind them, but I just want them to move at very, very high speeds, so it looks like they're teleporting. And to do that, we're going to have to get a bit creative with the teleport instead of just setting actor location. If you don't want a trail effect, if you want the teleport to be instant and all that, then this is enough for a teleport functionality. But let me show you what I want to do. So first thing we need to do is, since I'm going to be moving the character normally, we're going to just use the AI move to node. And the pawn here will just be a reference to self. And the destination will be this location. And acceptance radius, let's put something like 15. This is how close to the location it should be before it stops. Now, if I do this, then it's not really a teleport, then the character is just moving to that location at their normal speed. But I want them to have a very, very high speed. Now, I can just modify the movement speed, but there would still be problems because no matter how fast the character will be moving, there's still like ground friction and so on, so you have to modify all these variables. So instead of doing that, I'm going to make the character's movement mode flying. And when they're flying, then they are not subject to friction. So I'm going to pull off of the character movement component here and say set movement mode. Set movement mode, and I'm going to make it flying. And let's move this a bit far away because we're going to do a lot of things before actually moving. And the next thing we want to do is make the flying speed very fast. So set max fly speed, I don't know, something like 5,000. And there's another variable that we have to set off of the character movement as well, which is max acceleration. I don't think there's flying acceleration and regular acceleration, just, yeah, acceleration in general. And that I want to be the highest number possible. So, because I don't want there to be acceleration time. I want when teleport happens, the character to already start at max speed. So I'm going to just do a bunch of 9s here. And don't worry, we're going to reset all this back when the teleport ends. All right, so now we set the character to flying at very high speeds. And before we move to, we want to also hide the character mesh. So we said we're going to set visibility. New visibility is unchecked. That means not visible. And propagate to children. If you check this, that means that also the health bar, because the health bar is a child of the mesh, then the health bar will also be hidden. And I do want that because I don't want you to see a teleporting health bar. So I'm gonna check this as well. And one thing also, when the character is teleporting, I don't want them to be able to collide with other pawns. I want them to pass through other pawns as if they don't have any collision. So to do that, I'm going to set the collision profile. What was it? No, collision. Set collision response to channel. Yeah, set collision response to channel, and the pawn channel is going to be ignore. So if you collide with the pawn, just go through it. That way, it actually looks like they don't have weight and they're going through other players and enemies. And finally, before actually moving, we need to spawn these effects, the trail effect and the body effect that we have. So since these are legacy particle effects, I'm going to use spawn emitter attached, and I'm going to attach it to the mesh. If you're using Niagara, then don't use spawn emitter. If you're using Niagara effects, say spawn, what was it, system. So spawn system is what uses Niagara effects. I don't have any Niagara effects, so I'm going to use spawn emitter. And here I want, what was it called? Burden, that was the first one. Yeah, burden dot, that's the one we want. And I want to attach it to the spine of the mesh. I think it's just called spine 1, but let's validate that. Spine, yeah, just spine 1. So around the roots of the mesh. And the attach point is spine 1. Great. I'm going to promote that to a variable because we have to get a reference to it to be able to delete it later on. So I'm going to call it the teleport body effect. And we need another spawn emitter attached as well. So I'm gonna just copy and paste this. And this time it's called the trail, yeah, meteor trail. And I'm gonna spawn it, attach it to the spine as well. Oh, I forgot the attached component. That should be the mesh. We're of course attaching it to the mesh. Let's not forget that, very important. And even though the mesh is invisible, you can still attach things to it, that's fine. And I'm also going to promote this to a variable, call it the teleport trail effect. Anything else before moving to? I think that's it for now. Let me move this a bit here so it's cleaner. And they have to be the same line. Okay. Perfect. So I think this will work. But now we need to have a teleport end. So what happens when the teleport is finished? So I'm going to create a new custom event here. Call it teleport end. And I'm just going to call this teleport end here on success. And actually on fail as well. All right, so teleport end. What does it do? We have to reset everything back. So getting our character movement, getting our movement speeds, fly speed, all of that. We're just copying all of these, the collision profile. Yeah, we need all of this. So I'm gonna copy this, paste it here, and set new variable. So movement speed back to walking, that's the default movement speed. Max fly speed, I don't think we're going to use it anyway, so we don't have to reset it to anything because this character doesn't fly in any other point, so I'm just going to delete it. Keep it at 5,000, that's fine. Max acceleration. I'm going to click on the character movement to see what max acceleration default is. 1,500, all right. So I'm going to default that back to 1,500. It'd be nice to create a variable out of this as well, but it's fine for now. And the mesh visibility is visible, so check this. And the response to the pawn channel is block, because that's the default. Oh, actually, this is not correct. We shouldn't, the mesh already has the pawn channel on ignore. The mesh doesn't have collision with pawn anyway. The capsule, that's what collides with the pawn. So you see here. This is what we need to disable collision for, the capsule, not the mesh. All right, so capsule, pawn, back to block. All right. Anything else? Oh, we need to destroy this and that. So I'm going to create a sequence node here by pressing S on the keyboard and click. And I'm going to get my teleport and right click on it and say convert to validated get. This makes sure that it's valid before doing anything because maybe the effect ended already, so it wouldn't be valid. So if it is valid, I'm just going to say destroy component. And the reason I did sequence is because I want to do it for the trail effect as well. So get, right click, convert to validated get. And if it is valid, destroy component. Now, with a sequence, even if this is not valid, it will still go to the second one. If I had them on the same line, then I have to check is valid, go here, and so on. So this is just a bit cleaner. But before doing that, so actually not when the enemy reaches the point do I want to destroy these immediately. I want the trail to stay there for maybe like half a second after reaching the location. So I'm going to add a delay about half a second and then destroy these. Oh, and we also need to add a event dispatcher. So on event dispatchers here, I'm going to add an event, call it on teleport end, and we're going to call it here. So I'm going to pull off and say call right before the delay. We'll be using this in our behavior tree task to know when the teleport is ended. Anything else? Okay, so this looks like it's good for now. Now we need to try it out. This is the exciting part. So if you recall, we are still using the behavior tree for the ranged enemy. So I'm going to open up the behavior tree for the ranged enemy. And I'm going to add a new task off of BTT blueprint base, put it in the tasks folder, and call it BTT underscore mage underscore teleport. And as always, right click, event, receive, execute AI, and don't forget the finish execute. What this does is it will take a location, and the location will be add a variable here, call it teleport location, and it will be a Blackboard key selector. Make sure to click the eye icon to make it editable from the Blackboard, from the behavior tree. And we're going to pull off of the pawn and cast to our mage enemy. That's why I named this BTT underscore mage, to make sure we don't use it in any other enemy type. It's only going to be used for the mage. And we are just going to call teleport and pass in our location, which we get this one, and say get Blackboard value as vector, because we know the location is a vector. All right, and now we want to pull off of this and assign on teleport end. So we are binding to the teleport end event and say on teleport end, what we want to do is finish execute with success true. Oh, and if the cast fails, just finish execute with success false. Anything else? Oh, actually, one important thing that I forgot to do in a few other events as well, but a few other behavior tree tasks, but it wasn't a problem. It's going to be a problem if we don't do this now, which is we bind to an event, but we never unbind. It's really important to unbind once you've done what you wanted to do. So let me show you why, or how. First of all, you just pull off of the mage enemy and say unbind teleport end, unbind event from teleport end, not all events, just a specific event. And the specific event is this one. And I'm going to call it here. So this means as soon as teleport end is called, and I'm already bound to it, then unbind to it. The reason is if teleport is called twice while teleport is still active, then this bind will trigger even if you're not in the behavior tree task, because you bind to it and you never unbind. That means no matter when teleport end is called, this will still execute. So that means that finish execute can be called at a time where we don't want it. So we have to make sure that when you bind to something and what you already wanted to check happened, the event happened, then unbind from it. And we're going to be using this again later on. I'm going to show you how. Yeah, I think that's it for this behavior tree task. Let's start using it instead of maybe in this branch when we're out of line of sight. Instead of a regular move to, I'm going to do a teleport. And the teleport location will be the point of interest, because this is what the EQS stores its value in. So right now, if everything works correctly, when I move out of line of sight, the mage enemy should teleport to me. Woo! There we go. All right, so it's teleporting, but it's what was that? It's doing some weird things. So one of the weird behaviors I can already tell is because when the when the enemy reaches its final destination, it still has momentum, so it keeps going. what we want to do is to stop the enemy from moving immediately. So on teleport end, before anything else, what we want to do is, let me pull off of this here. What we want to do is call stop movement immediately, so that the character doesn't keep moving once they reach their destination. This should improve things a bit, but won't fix all the problems yet. One of the problems, I think I know what it is as well. But let's just see what this will do. All right, move out of line of sight. See, now the teleport is to a controlled location. It doesn't zoop across the screen anymore. And this is the second thing, that the enemy can teleport multiple times and keep teleporting around itself. And this third problem is the enemy can hit itself. So we're going to fix both of these. So the first problem about teleporting multiple times, we're going to fix by adding a new variable here called isTeleporting. So I'm going to create this variable, call it isTeleporting. And that's going to be a boolean. And as soon as we start teleporting, I'm going to set this value to true. And when we're done teleporting, after this delay here, I'm going to set this value back to false. isTeleporting is false. So now we know when we are currently in the middle of a teleport. So before actually, well, as soon as we call the teleport, I'm going to do a branch and I'm going to check. If we are not teleporting, then proceed to set teleporting to true and do the teleport. But if we are teleporting, then we want to do nothing. But one important thing that we shouldn't forget is that this event is called from a behavior tree task. So if we call teleport and we're already teleporting, we still need to call on teleport end so that this finish execute happens. Otherwise, we'll be stuck in this task and nothing will, and we won't be able to get out of it. So we need to also call the on teleport end here. The event dispatcher, not the event itself, just the event dispatcher on teleport end, because the event does a whole bunch of other things that undoes all of the changes we made to the character movement, but we didn't even do these changes yet. So we just need to call the event dispatcher. One quick thing to note here is that this won't work. And let me explain why. So as soon as we call teleport and the branch, and if we're already teleporting, then this branch will immediately go to the false and dispatch the event. This will all happen in the same tick. That means that the task here, we call teleport first. So teleport is called, branch is false, then the event is dispatched. All of this will happen before this node moves to the next one. So before we even bind. That means that we will bind after the event has already been dispatched. So to fix this, we can move the teleport to be after binding. So we bind first and then call teleport. Or the safer choice, so that the position of the bind doesn't really matter, the safer choice is to add a delay until next tick. So I'm going to right click here, search for delay till next tick. And what this does is that it waits for one complete tick and then calls the on teleport end. You can replace this with a delay of 0.01 seconds. Any small delay is enough for the execution of this node to happen. So we just need to give it a tiny bit amount of time. Usually one tick is enough. So this is the safe choice. All right, so this will prevent teleporting multiple times. Let's test it out. So now if I play here, yeah, now it's only teleporting once, but still a few problems is that the enemy can still damage itself, and also, yeah, like that, damage itself, and also the enemy can move while casting. Well, what's happening here? Yeah. So the enemy can still cast the spell while teleporting. Yeah, like that. So you don't want that sliding to happen. So two things. To prevent that sliding from happening, let me just align these. We need to tell the enemy to stop any montage that's currently active, so interrupt any currently active montage when you start teleporting. So I'm going to do it somewhere here before we actually start the AI move to. You just call stop anim montage. If you want to stop a specific montage, you can select it, but if you hover on the description here, it says if null pointer, it stops what's currently active. So that means if you don't pass any anim montage here, it will just check what anim montage is currently active and stop it. So this is a good way to interrupt the currently active montage, because of course a teleport should probably interrupt the attack. All right. Now, the last thing is the enemy can damage herself. And this, I think, is caused by something in the BPC attacks. So I'm going to right click here and edit. So in the magic spell, we have this ignore actor when moving that's supposed to prevent the enemy from damaging, prevent anyone calling this magic spell from being damaged by their own spell. And we also, so if I search here, if I go to the projectile base, we also have ignore actor when moving on the instigator or the owner. So we need to be in both places, but I think I see what the problem is. Where's my BPC attacks? This is not correct, actually. The target here should be the capsule component and the actor should be this actor. Because I'm telling this actor, this projectile, to ignore my capsule, because the capsule is what has the collision. So what I need is to get the owner and get component by class. Capsule, what was it called? Capsule component, yeah. And then that will be the target. So I'm telling the capsule component to ignore the projectile. That way it doesn't collide with it. This has been wrong for a while then, so it's good that we're fixing this bug now. I think that will fix most of our problems. Let's test it out again. And out of sight, teleport, if in the middle of an attack, yeah, interrupts the attack. Perfect. And isn't damaging herself anymore. Nice, yeah, she went right through it. Perfect. Let's test it one last time. Yeah, I think we're good. All right, I'm gonna end this video here because it's already taken a while, and we still have about half of the enemies, the mage enemies functionality to go. And I'm gonna continue that in the next video, which I'll upload very shortly since I have everything already recorded and prepared. And in that next video, we will start creating the custom behavior tree for the mage enemy, and we'll also add a new teleport EQS, because right now we're using the same ranged EQS for teleporting. And we are going to add a healing functionality where the mage enemy can spawn heal area that they can stand in and heal. So that will be coming up very shortly. So if you're interested and you want to see how this continues, please subscribe and leave a like. Really helps out the channel. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.